Yeah, exactly. In rhyme.
All right, we're gonna get this started. Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Awesome. Welcome to the Voices of Voice Actors with Jeff and Nadia here. Thank you so much for coming here. My name is Bobby Blackwolf. I'm the moderator here for this session. I'm also one of the sponsors here at Southern-Fried Gaming Expo. Longtime video game podcaster, almost 20 years doing a video game podcasting and streaming because we were on internet radio before we were on Twitch. So I am thrilled to be talking with Jeff and Nadia today. So Nadia, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where we've heard you before?
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, yeah. Wonderful. So my name is Nadia Marshall. I technically started voiceover in 2016, farted around for a couple of years trying to figure it out, and then I'd say the career really began in 2020. I'm best known for Nicole in Zenless Zone Zero, Sekima Asala in Path of Exile 2. I'm also in games like Smite 2, Cassette Beasts, Grimguard Tactics, etc. And other ones that we cannot talk about yet because NDAs. But yes, that is what I love to do. Video games, commercial, corporate narration, all that sort of flavors of voiceover as well.
Jeff?
That's good. That's good.
Follow it up.
Hey guys, I'm Jeff Schine. I've been doing voiceover for a little over a decade and acting for a little over 2. Mostly what I do is video games. Resident Evil, The Walking Dead, Avengers, Call of Duty. I've been in a number of different things. But then I also do some other things like Nadia was illustrating. I do commercial, narration, promo, audiobooks. Yeah.
Multifaceted.
Nice to see everybody.
So I always like to, because I'm an Atlanta native, so I always like to ask the first question about people who come in. What do you think of Southern-Fried Gaming Expo? What's been your experience since you've been here? What have you seen that you've really liked?
This is my second year here.
Okay.
I love this. I love this this convention for a couple different reasons. One, it's in my backyard, which is great.
Okay.
I love not having to travel as far as I usually do. I also really like Preston.
Yeah.
He's the individual one of the guys who runs it.
Yes.
Conventions get a vibe, and I think it starts like top down, and he's such a great vibe. Like such a nice guy, like super warm, and I love I love the arcade. I'm older than you think I am, and I grew up in arcades, so this is like arcades are my jam.
We stay in booths, that's why our skin looks so good.
Well, speaking of something, I could use a little moisturizer.
This is my first time at Southern-Fried Gaming Expo, so this is, first expectations and everything. And yeah, exactly as Jeff said, it's very nice for this to be in my backyard. As of next month, it'll be a full year since I've moved to Atlanta, so I'm a recent baby peach. And I love the fact that there's so many different kinds of games available here, whether it be board games, arcade games, pinball machines, you can have tournaments, and just a fun way for you to meet like-minded people. And even just seeing some of the demos, you're like, I didn't even know I needed this in my life, and now I do. And you can play it with friends or individual, whatever it is. So I love that the variety is here. You can get as lore crazy as you want to, or as lighthearted as you want to.
What is your fandom? What would be your
How
fandom?
much time do we have?
Well, we have an hour, but
we literally exactly an hour. That's how much.
I grew up with Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. Let's see. I don't know. There's so many. How can you possibly? Jeff, do you have any?
Yeah, I don't have like a lot. I don't have a lot of fans. This is all the nostalgia here for me is like sort of all of it together. Like sort of getting to see anything from my childhood, old G.I. Joe stuff and Ninja Turtles, and this is like where I grew. This is the stuff I grew up on. Although in particular at this one, I'm very interested now as of recent. They have a large Warhammer tournament downstairs, and I just stepped my toes into the world of Warhammer, and that was a mistake.
Yeah,
that was a fucking mistake. I should not have done that. But it's cool. It's very cool. So I was keen on seeing that at some point.
So what got you into acting? What was your path to get into acting?
Yeah, please.
Already. Yeah, I don't know. I got into it at a young age, but never in the sense that I thought it would be a career. I didn't really grow up thinking about acting as a job. I just loved movies. Ever since I could remember, I was keeping a list of every film I'd ever seen and following my mom around the house and just doing voices. But it never occurred to me to be anything more than that. And then I can tell you the day that I decided to do it professionally. I was on a family vacation with a family friend, and their son was in Los Angeles at the time working on a movie that had been called Navy Diver at the time and then became Men of Honor. And he was just talking about it. And that was the first time I coalesced all these ideas that you could do this as a profession. And I went for a little walk around the beach. It was like we were on an island in Maine, and came back and declared. And I was 16 at the time, and I've been doing it ever since.
I mean, I started acting classes and doing more like theater and musicals. I'm also a trained opera singer. I did my degrees in vocal performance. Yes, I'm an opera singer. You can go look it up.
I will.
Yeah. But I actually, for voice acting in particular, I met a woman who was the Portuguese voice of Google back in the day. And we were in an opera chorus while I was in high school. She is a firecracker of a woman, let me tell you. So much energy. And so we had kept in contact that after I finished my bachelor's degree, you know, she reached out and she says, I think you should consider voice acting as a career. I don't know the first thing about this. And she was such an example, and Jeff can attest to this, voice acting, the community is so kind and they give you advice. They are willing to answer any questions that you have. Like it's, at least coming from like the opera world, it's so much less cutthroat and so much more supportive. And she was a great example of that. She gave me her old equipment, she showed me her setup, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gotten started. So it's really thanks to Sumaira and a little bit of, you know, thinking of, oh, I really liked the idea of Broadway or of plays and being able to scream on stage and scream in the closet. It's great, cathartic.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that a little bit. Like, so what skills an opera singer that actually helped you a lot more than you thought when you got into the voice acting realm?
Oh, great question. I mean, obviously projection, longevity of the voice, knowing how to take care of it. I also speak a lot of languages because of studying opera, so I have a minor in French and Italian, and so getting comfortable with linguistics as well, and being able to, if they say, oh, we have a made-up language that you have to do, like, okay, cool, I'm not worried about that. Or accents, due to my background as well, I do have several accents, and if they say to me, can you pick this up? You know, no problem. So I don't know, just having the freedom of studying how the vocal structure works, knowing how to be able to breathe properly, knowing how to have the longevity to do a crazy 5-hour e-learning project or, you know, a 4-hour video game session and not be tired. So yeah, I'm thankful opera and voiceover have informed the other.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that.
Yeah.
You were talking a little bit about like, you know, getting the equipment and stuff. Do you do most of your recording at home or do you do it in a studio?
I'm probably now, I'm about 50-50, I think.
Okay.
I have a home studio. I think, I actually don't know how you could do VO anymore without having one.
Okay.
I think right before COVID, it was like a luxury.
Yeah.
If you had a booth, and my timing just worked out very serendipitously, where I had like got my home setup dialed in. Right before COVID, it was like, if you had a home setup, that might be an option, and it was kind of cool, and like maybe on a day when they needed something last minute, and the only caveat to that was if you were a promo guy, you already had home studios,
Yes.
because you have the golden handcuffs. After COVID, the genie's out of the bottle, everybody's remote, you better have a home studio, otherwise I don't know how you're doing it. But because there's a large portion of my work that is in the volume when I'm doing mocap or pcap, so I'm about 50-50. That was a really long-winded way of saying 50-50.
It's absolutely true, though. I mean, COVID really changed the landscape of voiceover. I mean, it's a necessity now that, I mean, it's not no longer possible if you only do stuff in studio, but I think you need to live in a major, a more major-like city. I would say it's not impossible, but I would say a home studio is a huge advantage and a necessity. But I would say usually 80-20 for me. Some clients specifically request me to go in the studio, like, you know, it is dubbing or if it is
It's better.
It is better.
Being in the studio is so much fun.
Oh, you don't have to be your own engineer, you don't have to be your own, but anyway, but I do like being in the studio. I just feel bad for my neighbors because I'm screaming bloody murder because my character is screaming bloody murder in the game, but yeah, so they have to deal with living with me, so.
Is the direction different when you're doing like home? Because I'm not a voice actor, but I know like I've seen like sometimes they'll sit on Zoom and like kind of oversee it. Like how is the direction, and how do you interact when you're doing those recording sessions with people who are paying you to do it?
I find the workflow to be a little bit different, just practically, in so much as there's like a little bit more lag time because you're navigating like another layer of technology and a little bit of remote distance. But otherwise, I don't feel it. For me, it's not that different. I mean, it's still director, an actor. If we're lucky, you might be doing an ensemble read. But otherwise, all I miss is is really the time in between your recording, where you're like in the lobby, having a coffee, like shooting the shit. And that's like, because that's where so much of our industry really lives, is like in the lobby.
Yeah.
So that's why I so prefer when I'm doing like, mocap gigs, because then I'm there. At home is fun, but it can get lonely.
Yeah.
Everybody crying for me.
No, I would agree. I mean, I think if you do have a break and maybe you come in early and you are on Zoom on your home studio, then maybe you can have a little bit of like talking with the engineers, with the development team and things like that. But I mean, I wouldn't say it's any different, especially now that it's so international. Suppose if, say, you're working on a game, maybe the Japanese development team is also on the line and you're with the studio, but then you're also in a studio or in a home studio. That's 3 possibly different time zones that you're navigating regardless. So it's going to be a little bit of a lag, but the direction is going to be this. I feel it's the same, even though in studio or at home.
Now you kept bringing up like doing mocap and stuff. So I've run into this problem with me before. Yeah, because I've moderated some of these panels and I've said, "Oh, it's the voice actor panel," and they're like, "Excuse me, now we're actors."
Oh,
so how would you like?
I'm not that.
Oh, good.
You can just call me Jeff. I'm not that
Okay.
special. That oversensitivity, I can't get into.
Yeah, because I've heard like performance actors.
No.
And
we're just all actors, and then and then that covers a bunch of different stuff.
I do want to open it up for some questions, but I also wanted to ask this because this has been in the news a lot recently. SAG-AFTRA has been striking against the video game industry over AI protection and stuff. Right now, it's been suspended as of last week, so everybody's back to work for right now while things are going through the process and getting ratified and stuff. Can you speak to a little bit of what the strike meant to you and what the SAG-AFTRA was fighting for?
I'll say only that, I mean, what we were fighting for was making sure that we are able to have protections for our voices and our performances, whether it was facial capture, full body capture, or just voice, to make sure that they weren't being taken without our consent and being used to train any AI voice models and things of that nature, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And the way that voiceover for video games work is that it is a buyout, essentially, like it's in perpetuity that the company owns that. But we want to be able to, say they take Jeff's voice for the next Resident Evil game, but they make an AI voice model that they're like, "Cool, Jeff, we no longer need you, bye." And then they'll be able to use that AI. That takes away so many possible years for Jeff's career, and that's not fair to him. And that's what we're all fighting for, is to be able to make our money and have a career. And yeah, I'd say that's my 50 cents.
Yeah, I'll try not to get long with it. I'll be brief. I think the strike was for some very noble reasons. I think it was entered in good faith. I have a unique perspective, I think, or maybe not so unique. First, I'm very happy it's over. I think that decision was long overdue. I also have, worked a lot with these companies, I think, which have been sort of vilified during the strike, and that wasn't my perspective or experience of working with them. In fact, I would argue many times those companies were allies. I mean, frankly, we as actors, we act in studios' games, not the other way around. And we're business partners. We need each other. And so that was my feeling about it. And I think as things do in the media, they can sometimes get a little bit, they get a little hot, and people like to pick sides and point fingers and create villains. And I just kind of was of the perspectives that we were never really, there was nobody to be against. I'm very happy that the strike is over. I think we have a great deal. I couldn't be more excited to go back to work with these people. They're great companies with tons of creatives. And yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
We want to make sure that everybody can work and you all can enjoy these games and know that humans are behind it. And because that's what you want and that's what you're paying for and that's what you're excited about. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so if you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. But I wanted to ask you, Jeff, what was it like going into like a long-running franchise like a Resident Evil? Like what was going through your mind when you're like, I've got to step into these shoes?
Yeah, I think the first time I stepped into it was in 3, and I don't know. I didn't conceptualize too much about like what that meant beyond just the project itself. The one time I did feel some trepidation and actually discussed with Steve, the director, about it was after we went from 3 to Village, because he and I sat down and chatted about pivoting from one character to another in a very short period of time in the same franchise, and so for me, in chatting with Steve, it was just kind of making sure that this was the right move for the franchise itself, because we were sort of asking you guys in the audience to like take this leap. Like, hey, buy me as Carlos, and now buy me as Chris. But beyond that, once I finished shooting and could sit back and look at the franchise as a whole, so grateful to be a part of it. What a fucking great franchise and phenomenal fans. Like, it's the coolest. They're a great group of people. I couldn't be happier to be a part of it.
And about like stepping into like one of the other ones you did was Avengers.
Yeah.
Stepping into when a lot of fans were like, okay, it's not the MCU people doing it,
Yeah.
but like stepping into that role and trying to make it your own. Talk about your process a little bit with that.
Yeah, well, that one, I shit my pants on that one. I mean, there was that phone call. Like, it's two things happening at the same time. On the one hand, like, if you want to do projects like that, you want to be the kind of person, like, you want the ball. Like, you want to be that person. You want to be that guy or gal. At the same time, you go, great, this is like at the peak of Marvel's MCU. I'm not Chris Evans. But then also for me as a voice actor, I remember being in the car when I got the call from my agent, and I looked at my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to be Captain America. I didn't have any other details yet. I said, this could be a mobile game. It could be like 3 lines. Who knows? It could be nothing. And I said, but, I'll never forget this. I said, but what if it's like a big one? And these are the people that are. And then I almost named verbatim the cast. And then 10 minutes later, my agent sent me the cast list. And so as a voice actor who was kind of just coming, when I saw the cast list who I was going to be with, that was a gut check moment for me, because I was like, how do I belong there? How am I going to do this? And then you have to take all that and throw it away. So that was kind of like, that was like what the process was like. But then you get on the volume and you just do. And you figure it out. And that's also part of the job. But also, what an honor. I mean, the fact that anybody at any point in time would hand me the shield and say, like, you want to be Cap for a little bit, and we'll call you that. It's like, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Nadia, you also jumped into like Fire Emblem, and so jumping into it, especially a Nintendo franchise like that. What was that like for you?
Well, sometimes ignorance is bliss. So I feel like in some ways they're like, do you know anything about the franchise? And I'm like, I have seen clips, but I'm not so engrossed within it that I think like, well, how could I possibly live up to all of this and etc. So I think in a way, ignorance was a bit blissful, but also this is the interpretation that whether we get to see the artwork or whether we get to see a cutscene or whatever they give us, that can help inform, okay, well, maybe she seems to be more like this, or oh, she's a little bit more gentle, oh, she's a little bit more, and compared to maybe other iterations where maybe she was more steadfast and stronger, that I could be like, okay, I can tweak her voice like this or whatever. But I think also just whenever people ask me, oh, I want to get into voice acting, I always say to take improv classes, because what it does is it makes sure that you take all of that judgment and you throw it out of the window. So that way you're not thinking to yourself, well, how can I possibly do this? You don't have time. You clearly don't have time, because you're in a session and you have to make ends meet. Yeah, you might be there for 2 hours, but if you finish in an hour 30, they like you even more. You get paid for 2 hours and you get 30 minutes back. But if you can not hesitate, they want to hire you more. Okay, I like that the fact that she knows what she wants. Let's give her something else. Or I've had sessions where I come in thinking I'm gonna voice this one character, and they're like, "So you have 3 other characters that need a voice. Like, can you do this?" And you're like, yeah." Okay, story time. The weirdest request I've ever received. I don't know what voice it was. It wasn't in the game, so I can't recreate it for you. I'm sorry. But they said, "Nadia, can you do an old person's voice?" I said, "I can try." But they said, "We have very specific requests. Tell me how you can imagine this, okay?" I pulled it out of my butt. I don't know how. They said, she's in a wheelchair, but I want her to be like an old female version of Clint Eastwood in a wheelchair. What does that sound like? I don't know. And I had to pull it out of my butt. They're like, "That was fantastic." I'm like, please don't make me do it again. Like, I don't know how to do that. But you can't hesitate. You just have to go for it and fully commit to the bit.
What's the weirdest additional voice you've had to do?
I have so many. I can keep going.
Yeah, I mean,
We got time.
I was gonna say, if you got another one in the chamber, I don't know. The one thing that for me, and just the way that my brain works, and how I've always been, one of the things I love about voiceover the most is how fast it is. And so, but that also for me is, once it's over, it sort of cycles out. Does that make sense? It's just how my brain works. Like I like a little bit of, like a little ADHD. So the faster things go, the happier I am.
They all just run together.
Yeah, they become a blur. We were just having a conversation before off mic where it's never trying to be like that guy, but I've worked on stuff that I don't remember. Done lines that I can't remember, projects. People have said like, "Oh, I recognize you from that project," and I have no recollection of working on it at all. But it's great because it moves fast.
Yeah, no, there's a story that I've heard about Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite video game franchises is Yakuza.
Yeah.
And he voiced he voiced Majima in the original PlayStation 2 Yakuza.
Right.
Somebody asked him about it, he's like, "I have no clue what you're doing." And he's like a main character in the game, but it was so long ago and he was doing so much in the mid 2000s. He's like, I don't know. I don't know what it was like.
I'll just piggyback on that. I was in Yakuza. I have no idea who.
Yeah.
I just know that I was in it. But it happens all the time.
Do we have a question over here? I was trying to, yeah.
Just more information about the process. How do you guys create a character? Is it different from video games? Is something like commercial or something like that?
That's a good question.
This is one of my favorite kinds of questions to answer because I love dispelling, I think a misconception that has always sort of pervaded, which is that there is a distinction between on-camera acting or voice acting, or acting is acting is acting. I don't care if it happens in your living room, behind a microphone, or on a stage. The process is really interesting because the longer I've done this, the less process I have. It's kind of like once you know the rules, you can break the rules. And I think in the beginning, when you're starting out, there are some touchstones of like teachers and styles and formats that you get directed to. It's like, do you want to do Stanislavski or Meisner or this, that? But really, everybody's process is different. Mine now feels just a lot of instinctual, and I think that the largest pivot is going from what does somebody want versus what do I have to say, and then no longer apologize. And sort of being willing to live and die on your sword and sort of go, I'm no longer trying to figure out what you want. This is my offering, and if you like it, great, let's work together. And if you don't, that's cool, I'm not the right guy for the job. Yeah, I think that's kind of.
I agree. I think that is the trap that I think a lot of people fall into, is they're trying to emulate what they think the casting director wants, what they think the director wants. And that actually takes them out of the authenticity of the performance. Because that is a hot word right now in casting. Authenticity. Real people. We don't want it to sound polished or over blah, 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 blah.
In commercial
In
too.
commercial, yeah, in commercial, and then video games, it's supposed to be grounded. Even in animation, it's supposed to be a grounded performance. It's supposed to be realistic. We want you to feel something, because what is the point of video games? your choice. Not, the point is we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to choose how this adventure continues, what this character gets to do. Do you choose to help the NPC over there? Or you're like, I don't care, I'm gonna go pet cats. Like, you can do what you want in the game, but it's your choice. And so we have to then, in our way, believe 100% with absolute certainty to then give you that choice. So yeah, it has to be authentic, it has to be believable, it has to be yours. Not, I think this is what the director wants. No, you've lost it, you've lost the magic. Trust in the intuition, 100%.
So, when you're doing,
I thought-
huh?
No, I was just go.
Okay,
cool.
So, yeah, and if anybody else has a question, feel free to raise your hand. I'll try to see you and call you on the next one. So when you're doing, like, what was your first reaction? I'm looking at, like, because of the player choice, there's a lot more dialogue than there would be in, say, an anime or something like that. What's that like, seeing the script and seeing all the different ways and trying to figure out what's going on, or do you even know what's going on in the games?
We don't see the script ahead of time.
Yeah, it depends.
We only see the script at the start of the session. So in the session, then the game director or the development team may tell us, okay, this is what's happening, this is the scenario, this is who you're talking to, and then we can sort of see, okay, this is what's following. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that goes to the backbone of what the whole thing is, and maybe that circles back to what your question was, like what's process. The process begins with giving yourself over completely to the circumstances. Like, that's kind of all acting really is at its base. Depending on the project, you might get a script ahead of time. On like mocap days, you will, because they need you to be slightly prepared, because you're going to rehearse it a little bit and then you got to put it on its feet. You had said something because it made me think to answer a certain question.
It's more like, because there's so many different ways the character can go.
Yes. I was so grateful because when I worked on The Walking Dead, Telltale, the way they tell stories is very much a choose your own adventure. And so every single scene was done 4 different ways. As an actor, that's like a dream.
Yeah.
Because it's the most fun. My favorite thing about acting, which is, I would argue, our entire job, is to be directable. Like, that's your whole job. It's coming with a clear choice and a perspective, and then be willing to like trash that because the director needs you to do this other thing. So getting to do it for Telltale in that way, where it's like, we're gonna play the scene 4 different ways, that's gonna manifest these other 4 choices, that's, hell yeah, let's do that all day. That's great.
So I wanted to ask, because you mentioned you also did some commercial work and
Yeah.
stuff. So how's that different? Now you're trying to put on a voice. Like, what's the commercial world like? Because I know, Nadia, you've also done like a whole bunch. We haven't written down there. We've probably heard you at some point.
Yeah. It's faster, certainly. It's a faster. Yeah.
Commercials are wild.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have like, do you have a commercial horror story?
Oh, absolutely, I do.
Commercials are a great way to break your understanding of language, because after 2.5 hours of saying the same 4 words, and I'm not exaggerating,
No.
even a little bit.
No, I can.
You'll have a sentence like, I'm gonna sit there. And you will do it, I swear to God, for 2.5 hours until you go, I don't think I speak English anymore.
What are these words?
Commercials are cool. They're like, they're fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's,
They pay well.
yeah. I don't know.
I especially love it when, and I'm sure you can attest to this, I think with video games, we're blessed that we have like directors who know how to direct. Sometimes you get into a commercial session and you have somebody who has no idea how to direct, and you're like, it's just, like pulling teeth. And you almost want to be like, so do you want me to try it like this? Yeah, exactly. Or they give you line reads and you're like, that was no different than what I just did. But they don't know.
Yeah,
So-
I have a great story from. It's not mine. It's a friend of mine. And he literally just told me the other day because we were having this conversation, and he was in a session and he did it for like 90 minutes, and it was the same like 3 things, string 3 words, and he just killing them. And they were getting more and more frustrated. They couldn't get it, and they go, hey, listen, we're gonna take 5 and come back and let's do another ABC, right? So another 3 reads. They came back, and the engineer, right, who can control everybody's mic, he mutes them, patches into my buddy, and goes, "Hang tight for a second." he plays back to the client as if it was just recorded, the first 3 takes of the session, and they go, that was it. That's it. So it's like, part of what happens is sometimes in commercials, and I'm not knocking them at all. Look,
No, no.
everybody's got a
Yeah.
job to do, everybody, but sometimes there are people in the room who need to justify being in the room. So they'll like, at the end, just
Well, we have you here.
chime in a note, and you're like, why? Why, guys?
Why are we making this a big
But,
deal? Yeah.
or
my
such a great job. It's like, I hesitate to complain about anything.
Or my favorite is when they try to tell me how to do my own accent. Because I'm British and Indian, so they try to tell me how to do my British accent, and I'm like, yeah, please. Yeah, I do. You can go look it up.
Are you cleaning it up right now? I mean, I'm
Yeah, no, I'm not doing it. I mean, I can.
Yeah,
But,
no,
yeah.
I'm not asking you like how to perform. I mean, like,
Do play.
it's like naturally what you will.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But they try to tell me that I'm mispronouncing it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, please, go ahead, tell me. So that's fine.
How do you handle that? Like, do you just like say yes?
Gracefully. Yes. No, I mean, you just, okay. You just nod, smile, and wave. That's it.
I sort of feel like this industry is all trial by fire.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard to prepare for anything that you're going to have, and it's one of the challenging things is we'll take acting classes ad nauseum, but there's just no way to prepare you for what happens.
You have to be flexible.
Yeah, and speaking about accents, I'll share the very first voiceover agent I was ever with. We used to have to go into the office to do auditions. That was how they ran it. And I remember, I'll never forget being in there one day, and I have a naturally ambiguous East Coast accent, and I can clean it up. But if I just kind of chill, I've got a little bit of this. I don't know, are you Boston, you New York? Where are you? It's Connecticut, by the way. Where?
In Denver.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
We live like 8 minutes away from each other.
Yeah,
That's
sounds
crazy.
bad.
Yeah.
But I was doing this like commercial spot. She was amazing. She was such a doll. Owner of the agency came in and proceeded to berate me, telling me I'll never work in this industry. I sound like a cab driver was his exact quote. And there's no way to prepare for that. Nobody can prepare you as like a young actor to have, a giant of an agent. I mean, this is not a small agency that was, and just destroy you in a room, and then have to figure out how to like pick yourself up the next day because you got to do it all over again. So it's kind of one of like the great things I think about our business that I've grown to love, which is figuring out how to like get a new layer of thick skin.
Yes. And rejection, dealing with rejection every day.
Like 100 times a day.
Yeah.
I think it would be unfathomable. There are aspects of other people's jobs that I couldn't possibly comprehend. So rejection in ours is very difficult to understand if you haven't experienced it. It's a lot. You hear no, 99 out of 100 times.
I know Kayla had a question. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get Kayla's question.
Is your name Kayla?
My name is Kayla.
That's my sister.
Hi, Kayla.
Love that name. Hi.
Hi, I wanted to ask a question back on authenticity. Has there ever been a time other than like a non-compete, or I don't know if those exist, or NDA that you turned off to like your own like moral reasons or?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes.
Yeah.
There are definitely projects I won't do. I also find, and I don't mind saying this, I feel like I guess it depends on who you are. I certainly felt more liberty to be truer to myself, the less financially burdened I was and the more I was working. I mean, I really do feel sometimes like, at least for me, I wish I had the moral conviction at the time to say no to certain things that for me inside I didn't love that I was doing, but also at the end of the day, I needed a fucking job. Now there are certain lines where even that I wouldn't cross, but, and then sometimes I worked for a company whose name I didn't recognize, got the material, did the job, and felt like, man, that kind of felt weird. And then like would look up their company and see things they supported and go, oh, and I just flagged to my agent, don't send me any other stuff. I won't do that. This is a great question though. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I would agree. If there's like, I, as a singer, I don't want to promote any tobacco products. So that's my personal decision. I don't want to do that. Or if there's a character in a video game or an animation that they want someone of that specific heritage and I'm not that heritage, I personally don't feel comfortable doing that. And so I say, no, thank you, but that's usually more of an audition setting. So I haven't necessarily most of the time been given something where I have to like necessarily say no thank you. Maybe some audiobooks where I'm like, okay, the writing's terrible in the way that I don't want my name associated with this. So, but generally I would say, it's your own values and morals and scruples. So everyone's different. I know Jeremiah had a question.
Yeah, I have a question for Jeff.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was talking to Nadia about some stuff because like I'm starting out with like.
Right on.
But I've had people say that connections are important, the type of equipment you use is important, but I want to know what you think is the most important thing, like the most important thing to use, or like the most important, like just what is important to you and why? When starting out.
Yeah. I think I would put at the very top craft. Equipment's great, connections are great. So much of this industry, I think, when I look back at my own career and I go like, how the fuck am I sitting here? Honestly, I have those like moments all the time. There's so many elements of preparedness meeting, like luck meeting. That person you met 4 years ago just turns out to be like, was a PA, now runs a studio. It just happens all the time. But at the bottom of all of that, craft, I would say craft. And then one other thing below that is like loving this, love it. And I say this, and I thought about actually I thought about this moment before I came here today, because I wanted to come off in the right way. This is really hard. Now, we're not going to war. I'm not roofing in 100-degree weather, but it's hard. If you love it, do it. I mean, do it. If you don't love it, I think don't do it. I think it's like too hard. But if you're starting out, dude, and you love it, like hell yeah, man, I'm rooting for you. It's awesome. But craft, classes, practice, read candy wrappers out loud, read books. I'm telling you, like, I mean, watch TV, fast forward the show, watch the commercials, listen all the time, like become like a student of the game and love it. And then connections will happen. You'll find yourself in like those rooms with those people, and you just never know. You never know, like today who you meet walking around the con. You exchange information within 5 years, and they're like, hey, I did this little animated thing, and I'm gonna put it on YouTube. Would you voice this dude? And then that goes viral. That's good luck.
Be nice. Be a good
Yeah,
person.
don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
I literally teach a class at a voiceover studio, and the core fundamental, the whole thing is like part of what I was talking about before. Like, what's the business part of this? How do you operate like a professional so that after your first day on set, people go, oh, I'm gonna hire her back.
Right.
She's great, prepared, on time, easy to work with. Because people lose jobs all the time.
All
Yeah,
the time.
Don't be an asshole. That's great.
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
get a t-shirt.
Yeah. There's a copyright.
Sounds like great likeness.
Because be nice, be good, be prepared, as Jeff said. Because I actually had a recording not too long ago with an ensemble recording, which is rare for us. A lot of the times we're alone in our booths. That's why Jeff said cry for me. But
Nobody did.
Nobody did. So rude. So we were doing an ensemble recording, and there were 2 other people on the line. The 3 of our characters were supposed to be kind of in a posse, right? So we had to interact a lot and blah blah blah. So there was one of the people on the line, and this person's with a major agency. That I'm like, okay, first of all, you're not representing the agency very well if you're acting like this. First of all, they show up with such manic energy. Oh my God, I didn't read the script ahead of time. Like, no, whoa, calm down, breathe, it's okay. That the person on the other end of the line, she's like, okay, we're gonna start in a few minutes, So I'm like, okay, Chica, breathe. And then we're in the middle of the session, and her setup is not quite right, that in Zoom, it's cutting off half of her audio. That the director can't hear her. How can they give you direction when they can't even hear half of your audio? At the time, she's like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Nadia, let's have you do your lines. And I felt embarrassed for her because you're putting yourself in a now, I'm sure that must have been a fluke. I hope so, because she seems reputable enough, but just be prepared and be nice. Like she was even telling them, well, I'm gonna change the line to this. No, shush, do the line. If they say, what are your thoughts on that, Jeff? How do you think the character would say it? Then you could say, oh, well, I've been in this character for 3 years. I think he would say something like this. That is the only time. Otherwise, shut your mouth. They've had writers working on this for hours. That's their job. They get paid to do this. Do what's on the page. In your own style, sure, but don't start composing. You're not a composer.
Because it's smart small industry at the end of the day,
Yes.
right?
Very.
Very small. I mean, we just found out we live in the same area.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we're besties now. So it's fine. But we're nice, compared to your agent's assistant could be the next top agent in 2 years. And if you treated them nicely and with respect and you answered all of their emails and maybe you sent them a thank you card, they're going to remember you and they're going to put you forward.
Yeah.
Just the little things.
Being in a small industry is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like sometimes I think it gets said disparagingly as if like, you've got to know the people, but it still works to your advantage because if I've worked more based on just being hired than audition.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
They worked with me before, let's work with them again. You can't pay me a bigger compliment. It's like, I'm happy to get a pat on the back on set. I'm happy to get someone to go, wow, great take. Best compliment, hire me again a year from now. That's the best compliment.
Yes. Well said. Yeah.
Question right here.
So if a game gets released and the voice acting is awful, what happened? Like, was the script bad? Was it bad direction?
That's a great question.
Like, how does it go south, and then how does it get released?
The answer is yes. Right?
Script and
Any
direction.
one of those things. I mean, there's stuff out there that I'm sure that I've done that's not great. My fault. There's stuff out there that I've done that I know for sure. Like, you picked the worst take we did that night. No question about it. So, but that's why I try to encourage all the time. This is a team sport. This thing we do. I maybe too much sometimes, and it can come off like cynical. I just don't think we're that special. We're just part of a great team.
Yeah.
And if any one of us isn't dialed in, then the train goes off the rails. So
The
that's
weakest link,
a
yeah.
great question. But it could be any number of reasons. And it could also just start with bad casting. They fucked up right off the gate. Yeah, I like that. That's good.
That's a good question.
Oh, and then what do? Nothing. You
Suck
smile,
it
you
up.
smile and pretend like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant to do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure I don't miss any more here. I felt so bad.
It's cool. I feel like we're all like hanging out.
Yes,
I know.
some of the back, yeah.
Yeah, was there another hand over here?
I have a question for you. I heard you mentioning prompts earlier. Do you remember what your prompt was for the Collie skin?
My prompt, as in like the specs for the character, or I guess.
When you were saying like, can you do a voice like XXX?
Okay. Well, I mean, we get what's called in all kinds of voiceover, not necessarily just in video game, but we can talk about video games specifically. There's specifications. In the audition slides, sometimes we're given a lot of information, sometimes we're given nothing. But it may say something like voice pitch, medium high, medium low, low, whatever. And then they may give us, oh, we go.
I'm gonna show you something.
That's a rude guy. No, okay. They might give us character references. They may say, we're really inspired by this character, maybe like, we liked the performance of Amy Adams in Superman when she was Lois. Like, something doesn't mean we're doing an impersonation of Amy Adams as Lois. It just means the client, for whatever reason, finds that timbre, that warmth, that cadence, whatever it is, just be inspired by it. So we get that a lot in commercial, promo, whatever runs the gamut. But for video games in particular, they may say, they may describe her. So for Kali, for example, this is in Smite. She's a warrior, very cutthroat, deadly assassin, like blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. She's got to be cold. She's got to be menacing, blah, blah, blah. She's Indian. Okay, so I got to use my Indian accent, but maybe in a lower pitch. Like, you are able to kind of analyze it on your own with the craft that you've worked on that Jeff mentioned earlier, and you can sort of assess how to make it your own. So that was essentially, I knew I was like, okay, assassin, cool. She's going to be a little bit lower pitched. Cutthroat, deadly, what have you. And then in the session too, they may direct me in a certain way, like, oh, can you do this? Or, we like that, but maybe make her a little bit more menacing. So maybe I'll be a little more harsh with my consonants or things of that nature. So, but that's partially you take the chance based on what you see on the specs, and then the director can, nuance the performance or kind of hone it in a specific way. Mm-hmm.
So you both talked about like taking acting classes and all that stuff, and I know that that's always a continuous thing for a working actor. And since y'all are actually here in Atlanta, I wanted to ask, see, because this is Yollywood, basically, thanks to the tax credit, a lot of acting classes have come up here in acting classes and studios. Do you have any local ones you would recommend for anybody who may be wanting to get into acting that are local here in Atlanta?
I haven't taken any classes here. But yeah, I just haven't. I haven't taken any. I mean, I teach, and there's so many options for classes. You can do remote. You can take, you know. I would recommend as a generality, I would get an in-person class for sure.
Yes.
VO, you can do remote. I mean, when I teach remotely, but I would get in a room.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working on like your sort of what I would consider on camera, because if the impetus is to move towards, you know, like mocap in games, that's just camera work.
Yeah.
That's on camera.
I mean, any start is a start. So if you've never tried any sort of acting class before, just try, see how you feel. Maybe you lean more towards the Stanislavski technique. Maybe you lean more towards the Miser technique. Maybe you lean, you know, you might discover that as you go forward. But yeah, any sort of way that you can audit or any sort of way that you can participate at any level, be it community theater even, like just go out there and try. Surprise yourself with what you think, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. But then make it a goal to see if you can. Because you might find through the process, you're like, oh, I actually can do that, you know? Those are the best auditions, I think.
And what are the differences between like doing an acting class for like, you know, scripted stuff and then improv classes? Like what different muscles do you think are flexed there? Because I know you said improv is really important to have for what you're doing for voice acting.
I think improv helps you work the muscle of working quickly, making fast decisions, and going fully at it. Where like a traditional scene study class, you're working more on like preparation. You're sort of like learning how to break a script down. And in the beginning, these things are very ones and zeros. Like they're very formulaic, and then again, like it becomes more instinctual. But like I would like for me, like I make it tantamount to like the first time you go to the gym, right? You're like studying all the equipment and like figuring out how to do it, and it's very. But then after you've been like a gym rat for 15 years, like you just kind of like walk in, you like know what things are, and you wouldn't even need to have ever used that piece of equipment, but you're like, I get how basically what that'll be. So there's just a familiarity, like yeah.
Or even when, no, I like that. Well, continuing that metaphor, even if you are doing exercises that maybe you're like, oh, I feel like I always do, you know, chest press, but maybe you do incline chest press, maybe you do tempo chest press, maybe you like change it up, or you progressive overload. So, but that's what I mean is that when I know we were having that in our interview the other day, you know, there's ways that you can tweak it a little bit, but you have a totally different perspective too. So don't be afraid to explore the perspectives. Don't be afraid to like see. Was there like a ghost behind me or something? Oh, okay. You know, just to. Yeah, you're playing with the idea of what can I do with no preparation, and what can I do with a week's preparation, a month's preparation, a year's preparation. That's all different. What can I do with preparation for a character that has to be like this versus a character that's the complete opposite? What is that like? Even take the same scene and do the complete opposite. What does that look like? How does that feel? That's a great exercise. Oh, maybe I do it as if I'm extremely proud, determined about it, but then I do it where I'm disgusted by it. That's totally different flavor and different preparation too, depending on how deep you want to get into it.
You had mentioned the gym, and I read your bio, and you know, it said you actually said some fun facts about you in your bio, that you did like the burpee 5K and the Tough Mudder.
Yes.
And coming from the fat guy sitting up here,
Why? I'm stupid. Yeah. I've come to the belief that like we have a body, and it's incredible, and I just want to see what I can do with it and celebrate it. So, I was stupid enough to attempt. This was my third and final attempt. I actually finished it. First attempt, I broke my fever. Second attempt, I only got halfway. But I did a 5K of just broad jump burpees. I don't recommend it to anybody.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it took me like 8 hours.
Brutal.
But what got me through it was I was doing it in memory of a family member who committed suicide. So that really kept me going through it and felt determined. Plus, like, I don't know, I think I just have this competitive streak and this idea of like, well, watch me do it. You don't think I can do it? Watch me. I'm going to do it. And I don't know, like maybe I feel like in some ways, like playing all these heroic characters, like heals the inner child in us that kind of felt a little like nerdy about it, or you were like bullied or made fun of. Like I was made fun of for not being active when I was younger, and so in a way that like fueled my fire to be like, no, I'm gonna do stupid shit like this. Like yeah, I'm gonna do a 24-hour obstacle course race. Like hell yeah, you know. So I don't know. It's just like a little bit of why not? I'm not broken yet, and yeah, I'll try.
Do we have any other questions? Because we are about to wrap up a little bit here, and I want to make sure that I didn't miss any more.
No, I'm always just thinking. I was just.
Are you thinking about doing the burpee 5K?
No.
I only have two questions.
I've always been a gym rat, but my why has changed so much, and now it's just that now I've got a daughter, and I just I don't want her to ever ask me to, but I want her to know that I could and would beat the shit out of whoever she needed me to, and I don't ever want her to bring a boy to the house and think for a second my dad couldn't take you. So that's it. Like that's the whole motivation.
Question right here.
Since voice acting is such a close-knit community, what are some of the most memorable experiences that you've had with working with your friends versus knowing that your friend like won out with the gig that you were going for?
Oh, I know you. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I think if you have a healthy relationship with it, then you have space to be happy for your friends. And I've always asserted, like, for me, if I didn't get it, then I hope one of my buddies did.
Yes.
That feels good. Because I've been on both sides of that. Like I've gotten the call from a friend who was like, I went out for that dude and you got it. And I've also made that call. So, but for me, as far as like a memorable experience, I would say the first time they handed me PVC pipe and foam and called it Cap's Shield, that like really stood out for me as a big deal. And then my favorite thing is, I think you'll probably attest to this too, when you're doing a project and there's an ensemble and you get to work with them closely, every project you work on, if you're lucky, you take like one person with you. You meet like 100, but you really only get to take like one. And I've been very lucky with some of the people I've gotten to take from those projects. I've been lucky with the projects I've been able to be a part of, so. That answer the question? Kind of. You don't look convinced, actually. I was expecting like you got it, but you kind of looked at me like, no, I jacked that up. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm in a commercial and I'm not speaking English anymore.
You'll sit right there.
No, yeah, I think energy is contagious, and we are a representation of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? So when you're in a room full of people that are celebrating each other, that's contagious. And manifestation happens that when you're celebrating each other, so many more beautiful opportunities are going to happen. And just because that happened for your friend and not for you doesn't mean your time isn't coming. Doesn't mean that their time isn't coming if, say, you won that gig that they wanted. So I think it's just this, when you have that support system and when you have that collective uplifting feeling, it's just that much more like, yeah, let's do this. We're all, there's enough work for everybody. So why are we being catty? Why are we pushing each other down? We don't push each other down. We say, let's do it together. Or I want to hear your performance of it because it might be different than what I thought. And that's happened, where you hear a commercial maybe you thought you were going to go out for and the winning person did it. And you're like, you know what? I would never have done it that way. And I like that better. So uplifting.
Was there a second question?
Kayla had fun.
I'm gonna get my question.
Okay. Okay. Oh yes, Brian has one.
How do you know everybody?
They met me. I'm not saying I like they have name tags.
Awesome. No, I
Remember people's names.
Yeah, I did. No, that's
Yeah.
true. And I do. I just haven't met you guys yet. But that's you did like 6 minutes.
Sorry.
To work with like voice actors that have been in the industry for like 30 or 40 years, what is that usually kind of like when you work with somebody who's been in it for ages?
So nice.
Yeah,
I know there's a local one here in Atlanta who goes by Tiffany Grant.
Oh, Tiffany's lovely. I met her while. Oh, it's fun. It's fun. I mean, as long as they're not an animal. It's
Yeah.
one animal. And most of them aren't.
Well,
Most of them aren't.
yeah, and like Nadia was saying before about the community as a whole, one of the things for me that was such a turn on when coming to VO is there were some individuals who sort of took me under their wing whom I had no business being in a room with or like talking to.
At the time.
Well, but I mean,
But
even
now-
these were the voices literally of my child. They voiced every single thing I ever watched from the age of 5 to yesterday, and I was floored because I was like, this is so different from on camera, where it's not that maybe those people wouldn't feel that same way, but there just isn't that access. But I'm like sitting in a room or in this dude's living room and he's coaching me, and I'm like, this is like sitting in like Tom Cruise's living room and he's giving me like notes on my film. This is ridiculous. So the community is phenomenal. Like just very little ego, 98% of the time.
Yeah, it's inspiring. You feel energized. You feel like, yeah, let's do this.
So our time's almost up. So you're going to be back out at your tables
Yes.
today. So if you did have a question that I didn't see the hand and Nadia didn't know your name, that's the time that Nadia,
Which is not possible.
But where can people find you? Like do you have social media? Where can people find you? And what should people check out that you can talk about? What would you like people to play of your stuff?
Please.
You can find me on socials at Voices by Nadia, and my website is voicesbynadia.com. You can see my voice acting, my singing, my whatever you want on there. And yeah, we'll be right out here in that sort of area right by the entrance to the expo hall. And hey, feel free to play ZZZ. Feel free, I speak for a living, to play Path of Exile 2. Other stuff is coming up. We can't talk about it yet. But yes, more things will be coming. So.
Yeah, there's some fun things on the way. My social media stuff is just my name, but you'll be very disappointed. I don't do it very much. I'm terrible at it. I need to get better, but yeah, but that's what I have.
All right.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
She knows my name now too, so I feel part of the club.
She cheated. She looked at the phone.
So, but thank you for coming. Hope you enjoy the rest of Southern-Fried Gaming Expo. Thank you so much for being here. And let's give one more round of applause to our new best friends, Nadia and Jeff.
Thank you guys. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.